There's a lot of different, Rabbi Mordechai here. There's a lot of different traditions in Judaism. It's really miraculous, because when you think about the idea of people standing on Mount Sinai, and you think about the people, how they were spread out, right? Moses came, said, stand here, stand here, stand here. Everyone was standing in different positions. And then you see this miraculous experience of like thunder, lightning bolts, the whole thing, right? And God's presence comes. And you think about it, everyone was standing at different angles, right? Everyone's standing at different angles, and everyone's different, right? Everyone's unique, as we talked about earlier. In classes, right? Everyone's unique, everyone has a different purpose, unique purpose. So when you think about that, the fact that we're unique and everyone hears and sees differently than the next person, coupled with the fact that the arrangement of the Jews on Mount Sinai was spread out. You could learn from that hey, everyone had a different experience with the Creator. Everyone had a different connection to what was revealed. The total truth, everyone had a unique. It was still the total truth, which everything is Hashem Echad, right? That was clear. But how it was understood, people had it differently. And what makes Judaism unique than any of the other spiritual systems is that the highest moment in the tradition is when a collective group of people experience God together at the same time. Most other religions, people have, okay, this person was a prophet, they had this moment, they were overtaken, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 hundreds of years later, it's a religion, right? And I'm not putting it down. The goal is not to put it down. However, the goal is to say, I could use my intelligence, my dot, to see the significance of a community of people witnessing God, and from there establishing collective traditions and customs, right? Now, when the temple was destroyed, I think it was like second CE, second century, then the Jews, that collective consciousness that was created through Moshe Rabbeinu, and it was expressed through 12 tribes, that consciousness was not as unified in terms of geographics, right? Meaning that there's people who went this way, that way, this way, all these different things, right? Okay, fine, right? That's what it is. It's going in those directions. Now, the thing is like this. Those directions that they went into over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, people in those areas developed customs that were, maybe inspired by, influenced by, whatever, the different conditions that they were living in, right? So many of these different traditions were in customs for how to understand the teachings of the sages, how to understand the Pasukim and the Torah, the Parshiot, all these things, the Gemara, this, whatever. So you have people like Rashi, who was like 1,000 years ago, one of the greatest commentators of all time. You have, Ibn Ben Ezra, you have Ramban, you have all these people that came from different places. And they had tremendous insight, tremendous wisdom that now that we're all in Israel, we're starting to collect everything, together, right? This rabbi from this century, this rabbi. So we have this huge body of wisdom that we could draw from. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different in this class. It's not going to be as long, per se. But one of the traditions that I've been very inspired by is the teachings of the Hasidim, right? And the teachings of the Hasidim can be traced all the way back to the Baal Shem Tov, which I think was like maybe, I don't know, 300 plus years ago, whatnot. And he's a rabbi from Europe, but he was profound, and he brought down a Torah that's very unique. That if you heard of Chabad or if you heard of Breslov, all of these schools of thought, derived from Rabbi Baal Shem Tov, right? And one of the ways that the traditions that were created from his teachings were called the Chassidut, and the people who followed it were called Hasidim, right? And a person who's a chassid, a person who goes the extra mile, was what embodies the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. So one of the ways that the Hasidim teach is through stories. And if you look at these stories very deeply, you could benefit. It's like you can hear a story and it could answer so many questions, right? So I'm gonna give over two stories. The first story is a commentary on society, and it's a commentary on ourselves and our personal work, our personal avoda, in life. So the first story goes like this. It's a famous Baal Shem Tov story. Actually, I read it myself inside and learned it. It's written in a commentary of Baal Shem Tov's teachings on the ethics of the fathers, Pirkei Avot, right? So it's like this. So the Baal Shem Tov is a story about two guys that have a pretty decent long journey to get to this destination, right? And the destination they're trying to get to is a place where they'll be, in a safe environment, they'll have resources, food, shelter, etc. things. So they have this journey, right? Now, on the path of this journey, it's important to note that there's two gentlemen. One gentleman is taller, slender, will be considered like good looking type of guy. The other guy isn't, he's a lot shorter, maybe overweight, these types of things. So we're going to refer to him as the tall guy and the short guy. So we can understand, because I don't have names for them, and I don't really feel like making up names. I want to keep the story as close as it was that I read it. So the story goes like this. So they're on this journey, and you got to keep in mind one other factor is that the short guy has this whole flask of alcohol that he just sips on. And anywhere he gets a chance to get more alcohol, he likes drinking. That's his thing. The slender guy doesn't really like drinking at all, right? It's not his thing, he's a little bit more aware. So it's like this. So they go on this journey. And so while they're going on this journey to get to this destination, they have a chance to kind of like go through this kind of like shorter cut, right? And the shorter cut is like this really big, dark forest, right? You've seen these forests, the trees are growing differently, they got weird energies inside them. This is one of those types of forests, right? So they say if we go through this forest, we could save ourselves at least a week worth of travel. This is what they estimate, right? Versus going all the way around. So they're like, okay, fine. So they go through this forest, come in, skinny guy is looking around, the shorter guy, he's looking around as well, having his drink, living his life, everyone's doing. But as they go further, they fall into a ditch. And this ditch was made by other people. It had like grass or weeds or tree branches on top of it. They just fell in it. So they had to stay there for almost a half a day, and eventually they figured out a way to get themselves out. When they got themselves out, they walk a few more, maybe a mile, maybe a little more, and they run into these bandits. Actually, these were the bandits that made the ditch that they fell into. So they're going this whole thing. The bandits beat them up. They fight, no thing. They barely get out of there with their clothes, and the guy, the drunk guy has his flask, right? He has his moonshine, whatever you want to call it. They keep traveling further. They get closer to nightfall, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Next day, and they wake up, and they're in front of a whole nest of wasps, right? And they wasp this, blah, blah, blah. And so they start getting chased by all these like wasps, these different types of things, stinging them, the whole thing. So what do? They run, and they see like a little, kind of like a river type of a thing, kind of a river type of thing. And so they jump into it to get away from all the wasps. Boom, there's leeches in it. This is really bad experience, right? It just keeps going on and on and on. So they had more experiences, got attacked by like red ants one night, the whole thing. Finally, they make it out, right? They make it out of the forest, and they are on the other side now, right? And now they can see their destination, where they're going, very clearly, right? So as they're walking out of the forest, right, collecting themselves, whatever, they see a group of guys, 3 guys. They're walking in, and one of the guys says to them, he says, "Hey, you guys just came out of this forest?" Yeah. And they're all, yeah, we heard all these crazy things about it. We're questioning if we should go in it or should we go around. What was, what was your experience, right? Kind of like how you go to a hotel and the people there say, hey, could you please write a opinion on what your stay was like? So what was your opinion? What happened? And so the shorter guy, he's having his drinks, whatever, completely like, I wouldn't say he's drunk, but almost there, right? He says to him, oh, everything's fine, no problem. Just go in, have faith in God. Enjoy yourself. So the guy who asked the question, the other guy who's part of the three guys who are going into the forest, or at least contemplating it, says, what do you mean everything's fine? Like, I'm looking at you right now. Your clothes are ripped up. Your toes are bleeding. Your nose is bleeding. You have a black eye. Your shirt's ripped. Your breath, smells horrible. I mean, what do you mean everything's fine? It looks like you've been suffering. You literally have dry blood on a large portion of your body. And then so next to him, the taller guy says, you know what? This is what's going on in the forest. If you walk 300 meters, you're going to run into this pack of red ants. If you go a little bit further, you're going to run into these wasps. If you go a little bit further, you're going to see a pond that's full of leeches. You go further, you're going to run into bandits, right? As you go past the bandits, if you make it past them, then you got to watch out for all these ditches that they made to trap people. He gives them the whole rundown of everything that happens and everything they need to watch out for while they go on this journey, right? So like, wow, man, thank you. So the Baal Shem Tov brings this story in the Ethics of the Father when he's going off of the Mishnah that says that everyone should make themselves a rabbi. You should have a teacher. And he says that the difference between a rabbi and a person who just tells you to believe in God, he said that a rabbi has the ability to navigate you through the dark experiences and say, do this, do that, make sure you do this over here, that. This is what a rabbi, a teacher is there, not just to read you words out of a book, but literally give you tools and how to apply those words and how to navigate your life. Then you have that. So you can see the story in that way, right? Who's a teacher, who's not a teacher? Teacher to navigate versus not. Then you could maybe go to even a higher level, right? And I'm not saying that Baal Shem Tov didn't teach this, but we're allowed to build off of great ideas. So another level is like this. In life, we have a decision to make. We have the decision to follow what feels comfortable or to follow truth, right? Because all of us are going through this forest, no matter what. We're all going through it because we're all trying to get to that destination. We're all trying to get to that safe space. We're all trying to get to that place where the resources are at for us. This is what we do every day. When people want to get married, that's part of them subconsciously wanting to get to that destination, right? So we have to own that we're in a place that we don't know what to do. We don't know what the full reality is. We're limited by our five senses, right? Which only see 1% of reality, according to the scientists. So a person has a soul. I can't see it, but I know it's there. Why? Because the Torah says. The Torah says Hashem blew a soul into Adam. So therefore there's a soul. That's how I know. And so many things that we experience in society and life, we don't know what the outcome is, right? But at the same time, what we do have is the ability to follow the instructions given to us on Mount Sinai, which were the instructions that the world was created with. It's not like we're just talking about a book, and if you read this book, you're wise. We're not saying that. We're saying that literally when you go outside, you're looking at the Torah, right? You're looking at the Torah. So if I go out and I do things that are against God's will, I'm going against the system of how the world was created. Now, my arrogance and my gaiva could convince me, no, that's not the case. It's just a decision I made. No, you're going against it. And when we talk about reward and punishment, it's not God is like this some type of thing. It's like a guy who's a professional athlete, right? He's a professional athlete. And he comes out of college and he gets the biggest contract ever. He's supposed to be the biggest superstar. And so during the off season, before he starts his professional career, he does nothing. He just drinks beer, he hangs out, he eats fatty foods, he just lays out the whole thing. And he shows up the first day of practice and he's demolished. So would you say that that person was punished by God? Or was that person not preparing for his occupation and he chose to do something different? He didn't prepare himself at all, right? He chose to do what he wanted to do. He didn't choose to do what his trainers told him to do, his partners, his agents, his man. He didn't choose that. He chose to do something else. So when he showed up on his day of judgment, which was the first day of practice for him, where everyone's judging this new rookie who's supposed to be this hotshot, and he gets obliterated, don't bring God into it. You didn't do anything the whole offseason. And that's why every professional athlete that you'll ever hear about that did great things, they talk about the offseason. They talk about the preparation for their greatness during the season is the offseason. And the offseason was a time where they followed specific instructions. And those specific instructions were given to them, and it was painful at times. I don't know if you guys ever played sports, but running up the stairs, mountains, bench pressing, this. I played sports in high school. It's hard. But when you're in the middle of the season, when you're in the last games of the season, and you have that extra strength, and you've given everything that you have on a football field, and you don't have any more, and you have a little bit more strength, that's because you prepared on the offseason. So it's the same thing with this story about listening to the drunk guy who's going to tell you everything's great and just believe in God, or the verses or the instructions that are going to allow you to get through. Because the superficial relationship with the Creator is just to say, oh, you know what? I believe in God. I'm holy. I'm Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. I'm holy. I could speak Hebrew. I'm holy. Or we could say that, no, I want to win in this lifetime. I want to make it. I want to achieve my perfection to the point that my soul never has to come back into this world until the Mashiach reveals itself. I have that ability. But it comes to me humbling myself and understanding that if I don't follow the instructions, I'm not going to be prepared to achieve the perfection that God wants me to have. This is the Torah. This isn't about Musar. This isn't about religion. Oh, religion, God's going to strike you down, follow it. No, we're not talking about that. We're saying clearly that there's a system created by the Creator that we were created to come in. He gave us the ability to have free will, to choose whether we want that or to choose not. That's the brilliance of this lifetime. And I'll tell you one more little small concept, and then we'll move on to the next story, right? Hope you're benefiting, right? Because this is some important stuff. This is huge. If we could get this down, you understand every dream you've ever had since you're a child, it will manifest. Maybe not in a way that you had as a child. Yosef is Tzaddik. His dreams as a child were not the way they manifested in the future. There were similarities, but they weren't the same way, or at least the way he understood it. So maybe we don't understand our dreams completely. Maybe we don't understand our goals completely, but we have enough of a basis, a yesod, to be able to build off and say, Hashem, what do you want from me? What is this dream that you've given me? What is this vision you put into my head? We have enough for that. And if you love the truth of the system, you'll be successful. So here's one little small story. I like this story a lot, okay? People may have issues with me saying the story because, Kanye West, who I'm a big fan of, and I was really sad by the anti-Semitic statements he made. He did retract them. He did apologize. I was very sad by those decisions. I spoke about it publicly on the news here in Israel. But it's a very amazing story about Kanye. And it's not really about Kanye. It's about his manager, or maybe ex-manager now, Don C. Don C is like his partner on all his fashion stuff. I don't know if he's equity partner, but he's like right there with him creatively. So it's a famous story. So in, the 2000s, the Chicago rap scene was like big place. You had He had Talib Kweli. Yeah, I'm not gonna start name dropping Chicago rappers. I don't want to mess it up, right? But it's like this: Chicago was a very, very great place, historic place for rap music, hip hop. And at the time, in the 2000s, the biggest rapper in Chicago, believe it or not, was not Kanye West. It was a guy named Don C. Don C was the biggest underground rapper in Chicago. People thought this guy was going to be signed and become the next big thing, right? And so this is this thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So all of a sudden, this guy Kanye comes on the scene. He's making beats. He's a producer making beats. He got in, found a way to get in with Jay-Z, different people. He's doing this thing. So Kanye West comes back to Chicago and he decides he wants to be a rapper. He knew it before, but he's doing it now. He's like, all right, I've been doing beats and this, and I made somewhat of a buzz. I made some money. I want to be a rapper. So he's going out. He's jumping in the underground scenes. He's rapping places, these types of things. And so Don C, who's the hottest guy at the time, sees Kanye over and over again. And what does Don C do? He quit being a rapper and said, bro, you're the truth. You're the next thing. And I want to be a part of where you're going. I want to be a part of you going. And because he did that, Kanye said, cool, you're my manager. And he became his manager. And the rest is history. Kanye West is one of the greatest musicians in American and world history. He's an international iconic figure. He could go anywhere in the world and there's a mob of people who know who he is and know his music, right? This is Kanye West. But the story is Don C. Don C could have been like, nah, man, who do you think you are? I'm the hottest guy. I'm the truth. I'm the next dude, whatever. But he saw a truth that was greater than the truth that he had. And because he saw a truth that was greater than what he had, he gravitated to the ultimate truth for him at that time in his life. And from there, he became a multimillionaire, obviously. He became famous. I'm telling the story about Don C, right? And Yushalayim Kodesh, right? And so that is a perfect example of when we get to a point in life, we have the option to follow a perception of life where everything is just all good. And you just have to just say the words and do the thing and this whole dynamic, and there could be people fit in. Or there's another path where I'm trying to get to a destination. I have dreams. I'm trying to get to a particular place of safety. That may not be how I get there, may not be the way that I envisioned how I was going to get there. But nevertheless, I'm getting there. Don C's kids are going to the best private schools and Ivy League schools, and he's a multimillionaire. But that was his destination. Rapping was just a mechanism to get there. He thought that was my way. He didn't say, oh, well, I'm going to be a rapper and then I'm going to meet some guy and be a manager. No, he says, I'm the guy. So how am I going to get to the destination? What am I going to do to get to my destination? Is it just about me and what I think? Or is there an alternative plan that will unfold itself as I commit myself to my truth? And that plan that may be unfolded to me may not be the plan that I had when I first started, but nevertheless, it gets me to the destination that I dreamed of. That's my destiny. That's the decision. You could go into the forest and you could hear exactly what you want to hear, and you could live a life that way. Or you can hear the truth and you can get the instructions that allow you to navigate. So that's that story. With a little commentary by me. So the second story is like this. I'm from LA, right? And my introduction to Jewish life was in Southern California, Los Angeles, California. And in that community, it's a lot of different, it's very diverse in many ways. But the community I became the closest with was the Persian community. In LA, in Beverly Hills, Netzach, these types of places, and I loved it. I missed that community so much. It was just a pure innocence there of togetherness, of community, of love. I was never judged there. I was invited into people's homes. It was beautiful. Very strong, very good Orthodox community. And so one of the things about weddings, specifically Persian weddings, they're very lavish. It's a very lavish Baruch Hashem. The people there have been blessed with parnasa, many of them. And when people get married, people all chip in, people connect this, whatever, the whole thing. So the weddings, no matter what time they start, they say they're going to start an invitation. It's always a couple hours later. It's just what it is. It's like it's a minhag almost. You know what I mean? It's a tradition. And so one of the things is that because the weddings always start later for whatever reason, I never had a Persian wedding, but I've been to many. And so because they always start later, they have these huge early buffets, right? These huge early buffets. And when you go to one of these lavish weddings at the Four Seasons or this hotel, whatever, you know that you're going to eat a lot, right? And so you want to have enough space to eat. So that day, you're on a mini fast. You're like, dude, I'm about to have salmon, lamb, this, cow tongue, this, garmazazi, all these things. So we're going to have all this great, amazing stuff. There's going to be drinks, this, everything you can imagine, right? Amazing, Baruch Hashem. So you don't eat that much. But if you don't know the culture, you're going to show up when that wedding time starts. If it says 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever it is, you're going to be there right there because, you want to make sure you're there, you're in, it's going to be people sitting, the whole thing. But if you don't know the culture, you don't realize that even though it says 5 or 6, that thing ain't starting to like 8, right? So you get there early. And so what do? You see this huge buffet. You see all this stuff. You see all these amazing things. Okay. So what do? You go in. You're just eating food, this, whatever. You're going to this place, that place. Oh, they got an open bar. Boom, boom. Margarita, this, champagne, whatever you want. Kosher. Wine, the whole thing, right? Okay. Shkoyach. Wow, amazing, right? Amazing, right? You're there. And by the time the wedding's about to start, you've already mingled with everybody. You've had drinks, this. You're just like, dude, you're almost ready to go to sleep. That's how good you feel, right? Like, man, I need to take a nap. Then what happens is, for the person who doesn't know the culture, they realize that at 8 o'clock, when everything opens, they open the huge dining hall. And the huge dining hall has the most amazing buffet times 10, has they had the geese, in the frozen geese, this, the everything you could imagine, right? The real food is there. Everything you had before was like appetizer, smorgasbord, right? This is what you have. So now when you go into this ballroom, you're ready to sit and you really have the real meal, you have no space. You have no space in your stomach. You're full. And so this whole world that you have now in front of you, this whole new reality, which is the ballroom and the main wedding itself, and everyone's now everyone's really showing up. They weren't showing up earlier like you did. Now everyone's really showing up. All the real big people, famous people, this, everybody, hush of people in the community, they're all showing up now, right? Because they know the rules. So now everyone's going in and they're stacking up their table, their plates, the whole thing. And you're like, dude, I don't even have any room to appreciate this. I have no room, no place to appreciate this. Right? So this story, I heard this story actually from a rabbi in LA, Rabbi Jadidi. And he said this story and it always stayed with me. And this story is a powerful story because he said this is how this is our life. We're in this lifetime now, and we're here to collect all the mitzvahs, everything, all the greatness, all the acts of sharing, all the removal of the bread of shame, everything we're supposed to do in this lifetime. But we got that alternate reality, which is going along with what everyone else does, right? Just fitting in, looking the part, saying the right things, instead of living the instructions of this reality. So by following everyone else, especially in Beverly Hills, especially in Los Angeles, you get all the gashmias. right? You get all the Gashmias. You get the Louis Vuitton purse, the Chanel bag, the Versace suit. You're at the best front. You're getting all the Gashmias you feel. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. But for many people, this is their avoda, is to get more and more Gashmias, right? More materialism, right? And you get it, the materialism is, blah, 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 the whole thing. So you get all the Gashmias, you get all the kavod, you get all the everything that this world. So you're famous, you're respected. Lifestyles of the rich and famous. You did it. You made it. So if our belly is too filled with Gashmias in this lifetime, when we go to the next world, we won't have an appetite to receive the life force of the Creator because we're so blocked up. We're so filled with lies and untruths that the MS that exists in the next world, we don't have any access to it. If we spent our time submerged in truth and Torah study and learning and Hesed and changing ourselves, this is the life of a Jew. The life of a Jew isn't Woody Allen or Jerry Seinfeld or Jerry Springer. That's not the life of a Jew. The life of a Jew is a modest life where you serve Hashem every day, you do acts of righteousness and you help others. So if we live that life of truth, when we get to the next world, we will have such a belly and vessel ready to receive the light force of the Creator, right? The light force of the Creator. And here's the last part, right? LA, Baruch Hashem. LA is all about cars. All about cars. Growing up, I was obsessed with cars. Cars were like everything, this, whatever. You know, my dad got me into cars. He was into cars. Gosh, miss. He was into cars, the whole thing. I grew up in the cars. And my obsession with cars were like so much, I would literally go to luxury dealerships at night, right? And I would just go and look at the Ferraris, look at the Lamborghinis, and just look at them outside, this, whatever, the whole thing. I was like, wow, amazing. Amazing, wow. There was even a guy, Bob Solomon. He lived in the valley where I grew up. And I think he was a guy who created Barney, like the purple dinosaur thing. He made a ton of money. But one of the things he owned was an exotic car rental place. So when we were old enough, we weren't even really old enough, we were like 18. What we used to do is, I used to work for my dad part-time. So I always had like monies and stuff like this out of high school. And what we do is we would just rent luxury cars and we would go into the city and just drive around. Or we would rent them for days or weeks at a time, you know? And it was just a thing, you know? All right, we were bored. I mean, it was nice, you know? So like any car you could imagine. I never drove the Ferrari there because I didn't know how to drive stick. Lamborghini, these things, but everything else that was automatic, I drove. Like you could name it, I was driving it personally. You know what I'm saying? And I'll get all my friends and we'll go around and talk to girls. This is like a long time ago, right? So Bekitzer, the point is saying that LA, it's all about cars. Luxury cars is, and one of the biggest factors around the cars, especially with the workforce, is traffic. The LA traffic is terrible on the 405, 101 freeway. I haven't said those things in almost 7-8 years. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been in Israel, the whole thing. The last time I was in Los Angeles was like 2017. And that was it, right? And I've been here since. And I have not driven a car once here in Israel. And I don't miss it. I don't regret it. I've driven a lot. Nevertheless, there's a powerful lesson you can learn about traffic in cars in LA. So in LA, it doesn't matter how fancy the car is, how expensive, 200,000, 300,000, 150,000, 80,000, whatever. When that traffic is happening, you got to sit. You have to sit with everyone else. Even a guy who has a car who is 20% your value of worth. I remember once I went out on a date with this girl a long time ago, and we're still friends now. And we were both kind of like going through conversion. She ended up going conservative. I went Orthodox. Anyways, she was an anesthesiologist, and at this time, I had one of those like they call it like it was like an AMG convertible coupe, right? Mercedes, very nice, high profile rims, tires, the whole thing, right? And it was brand new. Got it right off the lot, the whole thing. Very proud of it. So I remember this girl that, we're talking friends. She's like, hey, I'm going to this event. You want to come with me? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I have tickets. It's like some fancy type of ball thing, Jewish thing in LA or whatever. So anyways, I go to it and we meet up, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, hey, I'm going to another friend's thing. Do you want to come with me to my friend's thing after this? And I was like, yeah, sure. And this girl's a very pretty girl, by the way, very pretty girl. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So we go to this other event. And so as I'm pulling out, I drop my top, boom, music, the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, stop my car because I'm waiting for her to pull up behind me so we could go together type of thing. Bro, she pulls up behind me in an S600 V12. Okay, it's like twice almost the size of my car, and it's just this monstrous thing behind me, right? You know what a V12 engine is? That's the same thing that's in a Lamborghini. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it's a different, modality. It's not the same, but same horsepower type of a thing, right? I mean, obviously, Lamborghini's faster. But the point is just saying this is what she pulls up behind, right? She's an anesthesiologist, LA, making big money, right? So I sat there and I was like, wow. She's at a whole nother level, right? So anyway, so with that being said, let's keep going further. With that being said, when you're in traffic, it doesn't matter how fancy your car is, you're going to be sitting in traffic. But you know who's not sitting in traffic? Is the ambulance, the paramedics. When they have to go somewhere, everybody who's on the road, doesn't matter if you're in a Lamborghini, doesn't matter if you're in a Nissan, doesn't matter what type of car you're in, you have to move to the side and you have to let the ambulance go. And the ambulance has carte blanche. It doesn't even have to wait for the red lights. Everything has to stop for the ambulance. And so what is the significance of the ambulance? The significance is that this vehicle is going on a mission to save someone else, to help another person. And by doing that, all the other cars have to go on the side. Everybody has to get out of the way, and they have to wait for this particular vehicle to go by. And it's the same thing in life. If we focus ourselves on Torah and mitzvot, which affects everybody, which saves everybody, and we go on that journey, in life, all the obstacles, everything that everyone else is waiting for, all the different stories that exist will have to go on a sideline to let us do our mission. So when you see an ambulance going fast, shooting, blah, 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 the thought you should have to yourself, this is how I should be in life. I should be on a mission to go to help other people, to share with other people, to improve the situations for other people. And by doing that, all the waiting lines, all the challenges, all the things that all the other people are dealing with are not going to be a part of my reality. But this has to be a mission from the moment I wake up to the moment evening. The other consciousness is about me, is about myself, is about me working and focusing on my needs only. But if I focus on other people's needs, if I focus on what else exists in the world, the whole thing opens up for me. The splitting of the Red Sea. The sages say when God separated the waters, right? And he called them seas. That was the beginning of the splitting of the Red Sea. That the thought consciousness of the sea splitting was created in the beginning of creation. This was the Midrashim said, right? To the point that if the Jewish people did not listen to Moshe and go forward, the sea would have split, and it just would have been a miraculous thing that happened, and there would be no Klal Israel, there would be no nation of Israel, the Torah would not have been received on Mount Sinai, God forbid. The whole thing wouldn't have happened because it was already built into creation that this was going to happen, and that was going to happen, and this was going to happen, and that was going to happen. It's like you think about the whole matrix systems of the matzah. The matzah that we have in Pesach is a byproduct of us leaving at a specific time, but Pharaoh came and said, you got to go. And they took the bread that was unleavened and they took that with them. So say Pharaoh doesn't say leave. There's no matzah. There's bread, there's lechem, there's no matzah. If Pharaoh doesn't say leave, there's no experiencing the Yam Suf because it had a specific time and moment. That specific time and moment, if the Jews did not walk on that path, they would have not been able to achieve their ultimate destiny. And so what protects them, what created the time sequence was following Moshe. Who is Moshe? Moshe is the expression of the instructions that God created in the beginning of creation. He's the embodiment of those instructions. Hence, he brought down a Torah that's accessible to us. So every solution that you need, every bit of salvation your soul desires, the destiny that you're supposed to achieve, is already laid out. You have to do your part and be on time. What is being on time? Following the instructions. This is what we're saying here. And if we don't do that, and we waste time in life, and we mavatal ourselves to the ultimate destiny, what we're trying to achieve, for gashmias, for materialism, for laziness, for complacency, for fear of who we can become. If we do that, we miss out on the whole sugya. If we let our pride and our ego tell us that we are doing the Ratzon of Hashem when we know that we're not. We know we're not spending our time doing the Ratzon of Hashem. We're just wasting our time. We're hiding from our success. We're hiding from what we're supposed to achieve. We're using work, we're using this, we're using relationships, we're using our cell phone, we're using all these different things to hide from our destiny. And we convince ourselves with pride and ego that we're doing the Ratzon of Hashem. Oh, but I'm really doing this, and I got to provide for my family and this, and blah, 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 this whole thing. And if I don't do this, it's like, how, I'm in America. How could I not work on Shabbos? I'm gonna lose my job. If I lose my job, how am I going to pay my bills? I got to do it for Kulak Nefesh. What are you talking about? That sea is already going to split for you. If your focus is the redemption of all humanity, all your challenge will be pushed on the wayside. Why are you wasting your beautiful life? You want to do the same thing for the next 29, 30 years of your life? That's what you came in this world for? That's it? To be mediocre? To do mediocre things? To spend my time hiding from real life? Okay. It's okay. No one's mad at you. It's your life. You do what you want. But the point is, the miracles that were supposed to be given to you, you will not get those. The Red Seas that God already had split for you through your hard work, through your acts of courage, you will never walk through that. Which means you don't get through the Bar Midbar, which means you don't stand on Mount Sinai, which means you never experienced the man. And you didn't go through that process. Okay. My heart cries for everybody. That's why I do what I do. Because I want to see people achieve that. I want to achieve that. I want to achieve more of that. Look where my life is at. Look what has been done. Look. Last 20 years of my life, 18 years of my life. Look what's been done. So I'm not just talking. I'm living this. And even with all that done, I have so much further to go. And that's exciting. So anyways, so with that being said, hopefully we're able to gain a lot from this discussion. And we're going to keep having more, and truthfully, a lot of this is going to be in book form, this whole process. So this is number 4. And we're looking to do 10 of these. That should be sufficient to put in text. But, I love you guys. And even if we don't all make it together, God willing, we should all make it. And I cherish these moments, and they're given to God. But we got to go to the next level. And if a person's not ready for that, Hashem doesn't let people go further. So it's not their fault. You have to have Rahmanis and say, I got to go. I got to achieve this greatness. If you're scared, you got hang-ups, you want to hide, you want to do this. Okay, what do you want me to do? I get it. I could try to inspire. I could try to do this. I do that. Okay, you've convinced yourself you're doing the right thing. But you're not. Yom Tov.